It's the biggest game of the year. There's no way to spin it. If they win, the Warriors advance. If they lose, it's a game seven. I don't think anyone wants to even think about or comprehend. Kylen Mills is with me. Kylen, are you ready to break this down and give Dub Nation maybe hope, some realism, whatever you want to call it? You ready to go and do this?
Yeah, let's do it, Cy. I'm ready.
Beautiful. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter at Kylen Mills. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at Cyrus at DogSurfRocho, Twitter at Locked On Dubs. Kylen, it's a big game. There's no way to spin it. The biggest game. How are you feeling? What are your thoughts entering Game 6?
So I'm feeling good, Cyrus. I do want to give Dub Nation a little bit of hope. The team is back at home. We're in our building. We're in Chase Center. And if there was ever a time for these veterans to lock in and to show the young players how it's done and how you close out a very difficult Game 6 against what I think is one of, if not the best team remaining in the playoffs in the Memphis Grizzlies. So I think they're going to show them how it's done. And I'm actually feeling good, better than I thought I would after Wednesday night, but I'm feeling good now that today is here.
Yeah, I always have two battles within me with these Warriors series and games. One is the emotional side, which is going nuts. I got a busy day today, so it's distracting me. But every time I think about this game, I'm freaking out. But then there's the rational side of me that is thinking the Warriors have this. I mean, there's, this game 5 was a pure anomaly. It's, I think anyone who reads into that is misleading. I mean, it's just not a game you should really put much weight into. Would you agree with that? Like are you putting weight on game 5? Like, should that matter in the grand scheme of things, or are you agreeing with me in terms of it just being a game where the Warriors knew that game 4 was a pivotal one and that they saved their energy for game 6? What are your thoughts on the weight we should put into game 5?
I agree with you as much as I would like to disagree with you to create some drama on this podcast, Cyrus. I think it was an anomaly. And I've said this actually in the past during this postseason, but there are going to be nights where the Warriors just aren't hitting. They just aren't making shots. But when you have some of the best shot takers and makers in the NBA, they're not going to stay that way. And shots weren't falling. It just seemed like the anomaly of everything going wrong at once on Wednesday night. What are the odds it's going to happen again? Slim to none. Also, I think given just the veteran core that this team has, they know how to bring it when they need to bring it. And like you mentioned, game 4 was a day where they needed to bring it. Game 5, they knew they had the opportunity to bring it home at home. And I think that's got to be lingering in the back of your mind as a player, as a coach going into game 5 in Memphis. So I don't put too much weight into this. I still think Golden State is the better team. I think they have to, come back with a lot of answers tonight. And I think they need to make some adjustments and make some changes. And they really need to bring it from tip off because the slow starts the last 2 games have been absolutely killing them.
No, I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm going to share the screen with you. This is basically the offensive and defensive net rating for certain groups of 5 on this team. And let me zoom in just a little more here. And basically the 5 from this chart that has been the most detrimental is the one that the Warriors have been starting with, and that is with Jonathan Kuminga at the power forward spot, Draymond Green at the center spot. Their net rating is minus 42.3 for this series. Whereas you look at the most positive, and again, if you're listening to this, I'll try to verbalize it as much as possible. The most successful 5 out there for the Warriors in this series so far, or in the postseason, I'm sorry, so far, has been the 5 of Curry, Thompson, Draymond Green, Otto Porter Jr., and Andrew Wiggins. We're going to give you an update on OPJ in just a second, but Otto Porter Jr. remains on a minutes restriction. So that is a reason why the idea of starting him is not one that is being entertained. It's just not realistic. If you want him to end the games, he's on a 25-minute restriction. So what should the Warriors start with? I have my ideas, but Kylen, I'd love to hear yours first, please.
I actually have been advocating for starting Otto Porter Jr. the last 2 games. I think he should have started in game 4 after that huge game 3 performance. Otto Porter Jr. all season long has done everything right as long as he can stay healthy. I like his shot selection. In the postseason, they haven't been falling until finally that game 3. But still, he's another player that I think he's due for shots to fall and to have another big game. And the
Right.
postseason, I think, has been a little bit of an anomaly shooting for him because he was great all season long. He's been a solid 3-point shooter. I like his length. I like his size. He's just a smart player. Last game, he was one of the only players, and he only got a couple minutes in game 5, but in game 4 too, where he actually took care of the ball. Like, Otto Porter Jr. is not just like throwing away the basketball, making stupid plays. He's a very smart and intuitive player with a high IQ. And I like that about him because taking care of the ball has been a huge, huge problem for the Warriors. And I don't think throwing a rookie Jonathan Kuminga into the mix has helped anything. We've seen a little bit of his nerves, if you ask me, early in the games. He's had a couple costly turnovers. Him and Draymond Green combined have been scaring me with the ball on offense early in the game. So I am advocating for starting Otto Porter Jr. I know he's dealt with injuries. I know he's dealing with a minutes restriction, but if there is a time to go all out and to push the boundaries a little bit of that minutes restriction, it's like game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals against a very, very dangerous Memphis Grizzlies team. So I actually like starting Otto Porter Jr. The Warriors have needed offense early in games, and he's provided that. And that was a great stat you just showed, Cy, showing the actual, as a unit, the offensive efficiency. Warriors need that. They need that early in the game. They've got to jump out to a hotter start than they have been. They've got to score the basketball, and they cannot give the ball away in the first quarter tonight.
Yeah, the only 5 here that is not shown, and you make a great point. I mean, I agree. Like, Otto Porter Jr., again, he hasn't been starting because despite the fact the postseason started, they've maintained the minutes restriction because of that left foot that has caused him problems for so many years of his career. And you're right. If there's ever a time to kind of push that a little bit, game 6 would be it, with a lot on everything on the line, really, because I don't think anyone wants to entertain the idea of going back to Memphis for game 7. And if he's got to play 30 minutes instead of 25, so be it. And the 1-5 here that's not listed is instead of Kuminga, Kevon Looney. Basically, the starting 5 they've rolled with for the most of the season, which is Steph and Klay, the Splash Brothers, in the backcourt, Wiggins as your small forward, Draymond as your power forward, Kevon Looney as your center. But I'm totally with you that Otto Porter Jr., if he can hold up, should be the starter. You're right. I mean, those numbers show that it is the most effective 5 out there. The next closest 5 from what I'm looking here would be the having Curry, Draymond, Otto Porter Jr., Wiggins, and Jordan Poole out there. That is the second most effective in terms of net rating 5 for the Warriors to employ out there. Have you heard anything new about Otto Porter Jr.? Here's what I've heard, and if you have any additional insights, I'd love to hear it, because it's been a cause for consternation given that the information's murky. We don't know what caused the injury exactly. The speculation, from what I've been told, is that it was an out of bounds play where he may have hit his foot on like a chair or a foreign object, or maybe he stepped on a foreign object. The great news is it's on his right foot, not his left. The left is what has caused him problems for most of his career. But he's listed as questionable. At least the Warriors released that information yesterday. Have you heard anything? And given this new injury to his right foot, which is, again, it's incredibly murky. We're in the mud in terms of understanding what's really going on. Your thoughts on that, please.
Yeah. Well, yesterday, first of all, Mike Brown initially was like, yeah, Otto Porter Jr. is fine. He should be good to go. And actually was a beat writer who was like, hey, he is listed as questionable. So did anyone be concerned? And Brown was like, oh, well, when I talked to him, he seemed to think that he was going to be good to go for Friday night. And that was from Otto Porter Jr. telling Mike Brown that. So that leads me to believe that he will be a go tonight. Like you said, good news, it is the right foot. So I think that is crucial. And from what I've been told, outside of what Mike Brown said, it is some type of minor injury, like you said, banged the foot, something like that, to where it's not believed to be a long-term issue. However, I don't know. I do have concern because Otto Porter Jr. just has wrestled with injuries all season long. So you just never know, but everything that I'm being told is positive, that he should be a good to go tonight, or he believes he will be good to go.
That's all that matters. No, that's all that matters, right? I mean,
Yes. And I'm still along the same lines as what I said about minutes. Like, I'm like, if there's a day to like push a bruise on your foot, like, I'm sorry, but game 6, we need you. Wrap it up, tape it up, do whatever you have to do. If the Warriors close out the series, you've got a couple days now that the Suns and Mavs are going to game 7. If the Warriors were to close out tonight, you have a couple days to relax and recover a little bit. So I think
You have
that's also
5. You
right.
have 5
Exactly.
days.
5 days. So that's where I also, even on the injury front, I'm like, hey, like, don't do anything to hurt yourself long term. But like, if it's one of those things where it's like discomfort and it's some type of bruising or anything like that, like, I say push it a little bit, because now that the Mavs and Suns are going to game 7, you've got a little bit of cushion if the Warriors can close it out tonight.
I'm totally with you. And you're right. If there's ever a time to do it, this is it. And because the Mavericks and the Suns are now going to a game 7, game 1 of the Western Conference Finals will be on Wednesday, which adds incentive to this game. And again, just I do not want to be hosting Locked On Warriors on Monday following a game 7. I just don't want that. I don't want to even think about game 7.
Yeah.
So let's just not go there for now. Here's what I think Otto Porter Jr. needs, and that's Built Bars, because those things are packed with protein. You need your protein. They're the building blocks of cells, and the cells in Otto Porter Jr.'s right foot need to heal. So Otto Porter Jr., gobble down some Built Bars. They're relatively good for you. They only have 4 grams of sugar. Kylen, yours is coming. I still got to get your address. I mean, I need that in order to send them, but yours is coming. I promise.
In the mail, right?
I'll get your address. No, we're gonna get personal because first of all, you're gonna be on this show every Friday, which is awesome.
Yes.
That is confirmed. And then once the off season starts, you're gonna be a permanent part of this program, which I'm super excited about. We'll talk all about that later. But yeah, so Built Bars will be coming your way, and Otto Porter Jr., if you're listening to this or watching this, I will send them to you as well. 17 grams of protein for every Built Bar. They are yummy. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. Someone asked the other day, where can I get them in stores? That's a great question. I don't know, but you can just go to their website, built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15. You can get 15% off your order. There's a wide selection of flavors to choose from. Kylen, I'm going to get you like the mixed pack so that you can try all the different flavors and decide from there what your favorite is. So, and you can do that too. That's what I did. That's what Locked On did with me. They sent me a box and I was like, all right, cookies and cream, confirmed. That's my flavor. Again, all you got to do is just go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. One more time, that promo code is LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Make sure to go check out the Locked On NBA Big Board. Host Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies and author of the NBA Big Board newsletter is joined by Richard Stamen, Sam Ferris, and Leif Thulin, giving fans an in-depth look into the NBA draft, mock draft, player rankings, and of course, the big boards. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. So is Kylen Mills on Twitter. You can follow her there at Kylen Mills. And by the way, I am grateful the Warriors are not involved in this NBA big board talk, because that means they're actually still in the postseason and they're aiming for bigger and better things. Are you going to the game tonight?
Yes, I am going to the game. I am pumped. I'm pumped to see this firsthand. I think Chase Center is going to be loud. I know it's no Oracle Cy, but I think the fans are going to bring it.
I hope so. And I really hope that Joe Lacob is personally handing out tequila shots to the crowd as they're coming in, get sauced, get rowdy. Because here's one thing that concerns me. And I think this is a very legitimate concern. I thought the game 1 of this series was the most poorly officiated. And surprise, surprise, the lead official is back. I think it's Kane Fitzgerald. Don't quote me on the name, but that worries me a little bit. And one of the best ways you can quell bad officiating is by chanting, refs, you suck. Ref, you suck. So drink whatever you got to drink, provided you're of age and you do it responsibly, and have fun, Dub Nation. What are you anticipating tonight? I mean, you said you think the Warriors are going to win. Is it going to be a blowout? Is it going to be close? What are your feelings going into tonight? I mean, do you think people are going to leave that arena just storming into San Francisco celebrating?
I think they are. I think it's going to be closer, though, than Monday night. I do want to quell expectations a little bit, because as much as I want to say Wednesday was an anomaly, I also think Monday was an anomaly a little bit on the flip side too. everything seemed to go wrong for the Grizzlies. And I think they're a much better team than what that game represented. So I don't expect it to be a blowout like what we saw earlier in the week. However, I do think the Warriors are going to walk away with a win. I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I think the most important thing, though, is how they come out in the first quarter, because I really think early in the game, or not Monday night, wasn't even the blowout, game 3. But I think Monday night and Wednesday night, the first quarter absolutely killed the Warriors. The difference is Monday they were able to keep the deficit reasonable versus letting the game get out of hand on Wednesday in game 5. They let the game get away from them. But I just think if you put yourself in a hole in the first quarter, you're putting yourselves in a really tough spot to have to battle back against a team that's going to be playing very desperate like we saw on Wednesday night. I mean, they're going to be throwing the kitchen sink at the Warriors. This is it for the Memphis Grizzlies. Their backs are against the wall. They don't want to go home. Clearly, we saw that in game 5. So I just think the Warriors have to come out so much sharper than they did. I think they need better offense, better decision-making, better shot-taking. Because it looked to me, Cy, like last game, we saw a little bit of what we've talked about all postseason, forcing shots, rushing shots, making just bad passes, turnovers. And I just think they need to calm down, play patient, and, just really attack on offense. What do you think?
No, I'm with you. The turnovers have been absolutely just deadly for him.
Horrendous, yeah.
And Draymond Green has sadly been a catalyst for that. I think everything rides on Draymond. He is the heart and soul of this team, and if he's not committing turnovers, and he's making smart passes, he's aggressive defensively. We didn't see like any aggressiveness in the last game, in game 5. That was my indication that they were just, their heads were just not in this. They mailed it in. And if there's one thing that's really intelligent about this Warriors team, is that they're very cognizant of the grand scheme, of the perspective of the moment, right? They understand it's a 7-game series. They understand that every human being has a limited amount of energy to expend. I thought the best part about game 5 was that the max minutes we saw out of the important players was 25. Stephen Curry and Klay, I think, at 25. Draymond was somewhere in that range. That's fine. That just kept them loose. It's enough minutes to actually keep them fresh for tonight. Not enough to tire them out. So I'm okay with that. I was actually okay with that. I'm with you. It's a turnovers. Game 6 Klay is going to be vital. I think it's been a while, and we haven't seen the Game 6 Klay eruption. I think the last time he was in a Game 6 was the 2019 NBA Finals, where he was it Game 5 or 6 where he blew his knee out. I actually can't remember. It was Game 6. Yeah. So we obviously don't want injuries. We want the Game 6 we all remember. What are your feelings on that? Like, do you anticipate Klay erupting, and I guess the Splash Brothers in general, because their 3-point shooting has not been solid this series?
No, the series, it's been awful, but I keep saying, like, shots have got to start falling. They've got to start hitting, all 3 of these players, because they're the heart and soul of this offense, and they're some of the best shooters in the world. And it's like, at some point, you've got to be on, guys. Like, if there was a game to be on, this is it, Game 6. And I feel like what you said is so true, that this team, especially the veterans, recognize the moment, and they recognize the significance of the moment. They recognize they do not want to go to a Game 7 at all costs. So if there was a night to go off, this would be the night. I am concerned, honestly, about Game 6 Klay, because of something I've talked about all postseason, in that I just feel like he puts so much pressure on himself when he gets into these big moments, because he hasn't been here in 2 years, 3 years, what have you, at least when it comes to the postseason, 3 years. So that's the only thing that concerns me a little bit. And I think we saw it a little bit earlier in the postseason and during the regular season, when he had, some stretches where he wasn't shooting well, to me, where he was forcing shots, rushing every time he comes down the floor, to pop something up, and just giving himself really difficult shots to take.
Yeah.
So that's my only concern about Game 6 Klay. I would love to see him go off. I really hope that's what we see tonight, but I'm not going to predicate tonight's win on Klay Thompson going off, because I do think it's a tough position for him to be in, given that he has not been Game 6 Klay in 3 years. I mean, and know how much Klay loves the game. Like, he loves basketball more than, I don't know, most NBA players, I even think. I mean, he is just like, this is his life. And I think that's hard mentally as a player, when you get back to these big moments, to try not to put too much pressure on yourself. That's what I want Klay to do tonight. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Have fun. Let it fly. But so I don't want to add any pressure to him, Cy, by saying that Game 6 Klay is going to come through tonight and, really take this one home for the Warriors. But I do think the Warriors have to do a lot of other things right. Another thing I want to talk about is just trying to do something to try to offset the size that the Grizzlies have. Without Ja Morant, they're even bigger, and rebounding was another big problem in my eyes.
Oh, we'll tackle that in just a second. First, got to give love to BetOnline, our longtime sponsor. If there's one thing that actually alarms me about this series in general, and it's a huge reason why I've been saying for months that the Grizzlies, in my opinion, are the biggest obstacle to this Warriors team. They are a very dangerous team. I want them in the rear view mirror and to never see them again for the rest of this year. And against the spread, that's always a barometer for me of a team's dominance and just how good they are. As weird as it sounds, it's a tried and true formula. When a team routinely covers a spread, it means they're a damn good team. And the Warriors are just 1-4 against the spread this series. Game 3 was the one time they covered it. Every other game's been so close. They've been favored in every game, which is a little shocking. The lines have always been fairly low until game 4 and 5. Game 4, I'm sorry, was not low. But game 6, the line right now is the Warriors, and this is courtesy of betonline.net. The Warriors are favored by 8. The over-under is 218.5. That number has dropped considerably, but how are you feeling about Warriors -8 for the gamblers out there? That's a big number. What are your thoughts?
I don't know that I would touch that, because I do think that this Grizzlies team is going to give the Warriors a battle. They're big, they're physical, and their backs are against the wall. You also mentioned the officiating, which I think is a factor too, given who the lead official is. And that can keep a game closer than it should be with a couple bad calls. So I don't know that I'm touching that point spread. I think this is going to be a tough game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't even feel confident about the Warriors getting any type of double-digit win. I think they're going to win, but I think it's going to come down to the fourth quarter and come down to the wire a little bit, Cyrus. I really do. I mean, this Memphis team isn't going to lay down. They're not going to lay down.
That's fair. That is fair. And I respect them tremendously. I hope people are starting to understand what I've been talking about for the last few months now in terms of A, this Grizzlies team being better without Ja Morant, and B, the fact that if the Warriors beat this Grizzlies team, I think it's all downhill from here. I mean, I hope from watching this Suns Maverick series, you folks realize, damn, these are not as good of a team. The Suns are not as good of a team as their regular season record indicated. While the Mavericks are doing amazing, I think Draymond versus Luka would be an unbelievable matchup, and I just don't see the Mavericks having the depth to contend with the Warriors. This Grizzlies team is it. If they pass them, I'm breathing this biggest sigh of relief on the planet, as someone who also considers themselves a member of Dub Nation. But again, this going back to the spread, 8 is big. Worth noting, by the way, one of my favorite programs inside the NBA on TNT, Shaquille O'Neal. I don't remember ever hearing him guarantee something, right? That shows notorious more for Charles Barkley. Sorry, I'm trying to see if I scratched the zit. It's more notorious for if Charles Barkley's guarantees last postseason, that was comedy. All those massive celebrations every time.
Oh my gosh,
he pressed that guarantee button. But Shaquille, I've never heard him make a guarantee, but he actually made a guarantee for tonight's game 6. Do you know what that is?
No, I hadn't heard. So fill me in.
All right. Here's the okay, so drum roll, and here's for people wondering, because again, Shaq's never done a guarantee before, and he thinks the Warriors are going to win by 30, and he guaranteed it. So I'm feeling good about that. I would much rather have a Shaq guarantee than a Charles Barkley guarantee. And Shaquille O'Neal thinks the Warriors are going to blow the Grizzlies out. I hope you're right, Shaq. But if you want to bet on it, or you just want information about betting on it, just go to betonline.net. We're going to find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs. What a playoffs it's been. Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet online. It is where the game starts.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Kylen Mills on Twitter at Kylen Mills. She joins me every Friday here on Locked On Warriors, and her role is going to expand in the near future with this program. Super excited. So you wanted to talk about the Grizz size, and that is a huge issue. This is a big, long team. The Warriors were out-rebounded for the first time in this entire series in Game 5. That did stick out. People are talking about Steven Adams. What are your thoughts about the Grizz and their bigs?
Yeah, that's a big concern for me. 55-37, the Grizzly out rebounded the Warriors in that Game 5. That's a problem. I am going to say something very aggressive, and I think that the Grizzlies' offense is more difficult to defend without Ja Morant, because
I agree.
with Ja Morant, they're more one-dimensional. And Mike Brown actually talked about it yesterday during his just little media session in the afternoon. The Warriors didn't practice or anything, but
I have that clip actually. Do you want to hear it real quick?
Yeah, let's roll the clip.
This is actually kind of facetious, but here it is. Oh, actually, hold on, no, hold on. I messed up. Give me 1 second here. I forgot to click a stupid button that says share system audio. Okay, there we go, because we have to actually hear it. All right, so this is Mike Brown during oh, did I just close it? Darn it. Hold on. Go ahead. Speak for a moment while I pull this up, because this is a great clip.
Yes, I'll give my 2 cents on the issue. You've got to pull Steven Adams out from under the basket. They've got to draw him away, and that's been a point of contention I've seen people discussing on Twitter. Because one thing that Mike Brown said is for Draymond Green to let it fly, to try to draw Steven Adams out, as in Draymond Green, you've got to be a scoring threat. That scares me a little bit, and a lot of people are a little bit wishy-washy about that potentially being a strategy, because Draymond Green's three-point shooting is nothing to write home about.
Right.
But I do think you need to draw Steven Adams out from under the basket, and I think trying to get him out by setting some screens is a good option. But let's see what Mike Brown said.
Yeah, here's Mike Brown. Again, this is a little facetious. Just play along.
Sometimes you change this, you change that, add this, you take away this, take away that. And
all right, so that's Mike Brown giving us insight. Sorry, that was someone was actually highlighting where what you lose when you have Mike Brown instead of Steve Kerr. Give a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Take away this, take away this, take away that. Yeah, there you go. So, anyways, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all. Love it. So I just think, though, that Mike Brown was mentioning, Draymond Green letting it fly as a way to force Steven Adams out from under the basket to actually guard him, because he's been hanging off and giving Draymond Green all the space in the world. A little bit hesitant about that strategy, just because Draymond Green's outside shooting, nothing to write home about. But I think there are opportunities for him to set some screens, high ball screens, or even off ball screens for Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, and force Steven Adams to come out and do something on defense, because letting him hang out under the basket, they have been clogging up the paint on defense and making it very difficult for the Warriors to get to the rim. And on offense, you cannot let them get any second chance points. Put bodies on people. I feel like it sounds so simple, but that's just another thing that I just feel like the Warriors in not bringing it in general on Wednesday, that's just one aspect they didn't bring it in. So I think that's huge. But I also think on offense, like, you do have to do something different to try to prevent them from clogging up the paint the way they did. You've got to get some of those big guys out from under the basket.
No, you're absolutely right. 100% right. It's one thing that stuck out really in Game 5 was they sagged off Draymond Green so much defensively that he oftentimes had the ball in the paint. And this is where Draymond has to redirect his approach, and especially with aggressiveness, like what you're saying. He has enough touch on the ball to make 8-footers.
Yeah,
it's one thing to be heaving up threes, but when you're in the paint, Draymond has the skill set to do so. And I don't know why. Look, everything they did in Game 5 was bad. I thought the only positive, really, besides the limited minutes for the main players, was Moses Moody. Moses Moody actually looked good. It actually raised a lot of eyebrows. Like, why have we been waiting to play him? Do you have any strong feelings? A lot of, like, Damian Lee is very divisive. Like, he's definitely a polarizing player on this roster, mainly because of the minute distribution. There are players that many feel should be getting those minutes instead of Damian Lee. Do you have a strong feeling on that, like many fans do? Are you happy with Damian Lee getting minutes? What are your thoughts on that?
I think Moses Moody needs more minutes, and I've been saying that actually all series, because I think he earned it with some of his big play down the stretch of the season, and some of these games where the Warriors had to rest their vets and Moses Moody got his time to shine. Like, I think he proved that he could play. He could start on an NBA team that wasn't as deep as the Warriors and didn't have necessarily the championship aspirations the Warriors do. I mean, he's in a very tough spot for a rookie to earn significant minutes. And I think if he was on a different roster, he would be potentially starting in the NBA as a rookie. I think he earned that time. I would like to see Moses Moody play instead of Damian Lee. And I'm not quite as like, people are so hot and cold on Damian Lee, like cut him now, like I'm not going to go that far. I think what Steve Kerr has been doing and, Mike Brown in his place is looking to rely on the veterans and not, put too much pressure on any of the young players. And I think Moses Moody is one who's kind of gotten overlooked because of that, just because he doesn't have the postseason experience and he's young. And Damian Lee has been in the situation before. So by default, they kind of have been throwing him into some early game positions when guys are in foul trouble or, whatever, they're trying to get some offense going. But I think give Moses Moody the Damian Lee minutes. Cyrus, that's what I'm going to advocate for.
Agreed.
I'm going to advocate for it because I think Moses Moody looked good in game 5. I agree.
Yes, he did.
He honestly plays like well beyond his years. I know it's something that the coaching staff has talked about from a mental perspective too, but like even his confidence when he's out there, like I think he looks beyond a rookie. Like he looks more advanced than that. Give Moody,
I agree.
Give Moody the Lee minutes. That's what I say.
I'm totally with you. I can't remember if it was Kerr or Iguodala who alluded to Moody having an old soul.
Yeah,
referring to his maturity. I agree. I don't think the moment is too big for him.
No.
I understand that the coaching staff is comfortable with Damian Lee, but it's time. It's time. And bring. I think both you and I are on the same page. Bring Kuminga off the bench.
Yep.
Start Otto Porter Jr. And if you're not going to start Otto Porter Jr., if you're really listening to Rick Celebrini and he's emphasizing maintaining that 25 minutes, then start Kevon Looney. I at a minimum get some more size out there because. If it's broke, fix it. Okay. Like the Kuminga thing's not working. I mean, these starts are atrocious. And, Gary Payton II was a great fix, but he's not in the series anymore. And the adjustment is not working. Sometimes things don't work when you try them and you got to try again with something new. So I'm with you. Any last words? I mean, this is the moment's coming. When people watching this, it's going to be hours away. This is, again, when you look at the grand scheme of things, especially when you look at this Golden State Warriors franchise and the whole history of it, getting back to the 1946 when it first originated, I believe that was the year. This game ranks among the all-time big moments, among the all-time biggest games. I mean, when you look at the gravity of it, if they win, they are hands down the favorites to win the world championship. The odds makers say it. I've not been this confident in a long time about this Warriors team. I'm full-heartedly all the way in on this team to win the whole thing, but they have to win tonight because if they lose tonight, I don't want to think about game 7. I will either have an emergency pod on Saturday to preview game 7, or I'm just going to curl up in a bed and hide and tell my wife, and my stepson, good luck with the weekend. I'm going to be depressed and manic and anxious and leave me alone. That's what we're looking at for a weekend of leading into a Sunday game 7. I don't want it. Kane Fitzgerald, whatever your name is, please stay away from the game. Don't blow that damn whistle. Chase Center crowd. Let him hear it. Let the Grizzlies hear it. Let all those role players know they're on the road because they're going to struggle as a result of it. Your final thoughts. We're into it, baby. This is it. What do you think?
It. First of all, Cy, no one wants to see you anxious, curled up in a ball. Like, Warriors, don't do that to my man here. Like, come on. Do not ruin his weekend with this by forcing a game 7. But I think that the Warriors, this veteran team knows when to rise to the occasion and knows how big this moment is. You said it. This is one of the biggest playoff games in Warriors in this group's history together. There's no doubt about it. I think this Grizzlies team is one of the toughest remaining in this playoffs. And a win tonight, to me, seals the road to the championship. I know that's aggressive, but I think that they'll make it out of the Western Conference Finals. I really do. But tonight, they cannot overlook tonight. I don't want to get ahead of tonight because tonight is monumental. But I do think that this veteran squad knows when they need to show up and rise to the occasion, and that's tonight. Yep. We didn't even get to really talk about it though, but I am curious to see how they respond without head coach Steve Kerr again, because I know that's something that's been a talker is the fact that Steve Kerr has been absent. Have they been feeling this absence? However, I am comforted by the fact that this team has veteran player coaches like Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala, I think those two are going to take over in the locker room. And I think they're going to tell some of the young players and the veterans, hey, here's what we need to do tonight. We have to fight. We have to battle. We have to, whatever. I think they know what to say basically to get this team up and to get this team focused and to get this team locked in. So the Warriors, I think, are in a great position. They win tonight. They're back at home. We've got the sixth man in the Chase Center crowd. I'd love to see people getting some shots of tequila. Give me a shot of tequila on my way in, Joe Lacob. Like, I'm in for that. It's been a long series. It's been a long playoffs for us covering the team too. Like, give us all free shots. That's what I'm going to advocate for here at the end of the program. But no, bring it for the Chase Center crowd. Bring it tonight. Bring that energy. Make it difficult on the Grizzlies. Make it a hostile environment.
Yes. 100% agree. And Joe, save the cheap stuff for the fans. It's your money. Give Kylen the Añejo shots. She deserves it. KRON for Sports Anchor Kylen Mills. You can follow her on Twitter at Kylen Mills. She joins me every Friday, and that role is gonna expand as we go along here. You can follow me on Twitter at DogSurf Roadshow and the program on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. Let's go Warriors. This is a huge game, and hope we join you Monday with a smile on our faces and not looking ahead to next year. Let's not even think about that, even though I just said it.
Speak it into
I won't bring it up
existence.
again. Yeah. And again, my rational side, which is mostly correct, it's confident. It's cool and calm. On paper, everything is telling me the Warriors are going to easily win this game.
Yeah.
But again, I also respect the Grizzlies tremendously. This is a tough squad. And yeah, let's hope for a great night. Kylen, always a pleasure. And thank you everyone for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA. From the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, Locked On experts take you deep inside the playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. Always a pleasure, Kylen. I will see you soon, and thank you everyone. Take care. Later.